Hello and welcome to another episode of Alan Revises. When last we left off, we were reviewing my screenplay, The Second Apple, well, to be honest, I'm going to back it up a little, and I am dissatisfied with the way the fire chief handles the things after the Bergen makes the big heroic rush into the building because he's under the effects of Artemis and so on. It's one of the reasons he's seeming more heroic. Alright, the woman's loaded the ambulance. The girl waves to Bergen and Tony, then slips into the ambulance before the doors close. A fire chief, older with the requisite mustache, guides the sooty pair guides Bergen, a sooty Bergen, and Tony away from fire and flames. That was damn foolish. Let's have it be less friendly and more admonishing. This sounds more like what they'd actually do. Damn foolish. That was damn foolish, boys. Don't worry, I'm not taking your job. Too dangerous. Chuckles. Then shoves Bergen and Tony off and away. Now, I did come up with something fun for the middle part of things. Exterior walking away from the fire. Bergen and Tony walk away, slow motion, from the fire. Bergen is a resolute hero. It's just on the sidewalk. I don't care. Tony keeps, let's see, back at the fire. Fire as the firefighters tackle the blaze. Regular speed. Hoof it away from the scene. Yeah? Really? Okay, you know what? I'm hungry, Bergen says, and Tony replies, yeah, really? Bergen, well, let's see, hey. Alright. Do you think you and your goddess-given talents can get us into Nova? Why not Le Bernard? We'll never make it across town before they close up. Besides, I could really go for sashimi. Thank you. There's a pronunciation for that, and I am not a native Japanese speaker. I'm barely a native English speaker. Forget that, Bergen says. I want a steak, a whole flank of cow. Queensbridge? Tony will admit. Queensbridge, which we go to the Queensbridge Tavern. Is because instead of like them going home and decompressing or talking about what had happened, this is a movie. We've got to move it along. The exclusive Queensbridge Tavern is lit up bright. Is a bright crystal amid the night. The interior is home to fine dining in both black and white. The meaty hand of a bouncer slams atop Bergen's chest and halts him in his tracks. Got a reservation? Got a reservation? Bergen, only somewhat cleaned up, can see the answer to that straight away. Yeah, it involves cats. Funny, the bouncer says. But we're full up on funny men tonight. Well, funny men who need a bath tonight. Spies a familiar flip of hair. The woman of his dreams. Alright, so we're however far in, and, well, the, Bergen's finally found the woman of his dreams by pure happenstance. Her elegant dress manages to be both demure and exotic as she shifts nervously, seated at a table across from an empty seat. Sits nervously. She sits. So piss off and take a bath. I will remove that from up there. I knew I needed to put the fact they need to take a bath. A shower and take a shower. Men take showers. Hold on, let him explain. It's complicated. Tony nudges Bergen. Bergen shakes off his ardor. But there it is. The C and G piano I was told to look for. What? You're the player? I'm subbing, Bergen says. It's a lie. You're telling me Whitney's going to be even later than late? She just wanted me to cover for a bit. The bouncer takes a second look at Bergen. Not like that, you won't. You'll need a the gimp suit and a hose. He needs what? You'll need a hose and the gimp suit. Tony coughs. He needs what? Black pants slide over muscled calves. Half a shirt slides across a powerful chest. Across Bergen's powerful chest. There's a little bit of eye candy for the women in the audience. And the men too, if you're so inclined. Doesn't really matter. A set of nearly hidden black straps make the performance tuxedo fit passably on Bergen. Tony prepares the tie. Can't believe this worked. I mean, it's not a table, but still. She's here, Bergen says. Who, Tony? Bergen all but glows. Her? Your dream girl is in this restaurant. I've got to do this right. I'll play under my arms. This is all very convenient. Somebody has to lampshade this moment. So do you know the... So, do you know the piano? Sure, I played back when I was 8 and also some of 9. The rear door bangs open and the perfectly appointed maitre d' marches down and gives... Better than nothing. Come along. Both men fell. Just the player. Tony falls back. Because we're going to need Tony out of this scene. He'll be off doing something, probably eating in the kitchen. Have you performed for dinner crowds before? Well, this is different. It is 2 in the morning, and the only people who wish for fine cuisine at this hour are either very eccentric or very rich. Often both. For any particular... Oh, yeah, I already put it in there. I had already thought that out. Great. Well, that's one part of revising, is you get to, you catch yourself sometimes. That you've... figure out what you've made and why it, have it work a little better. For any particular table, you can safely assume both, and that's a fine line. It leads the way straight through the kitchens. You are comped a meal, but only after we close, sniffs the air, no smoking either. I'm done with that for the evening. Good. Keep it light, keep it happy, keep it coming. If and when Whitney decides to grace us with her presence to play out the remaining tables, you will depart gracefully. No asking for tips. Understood? You'll have no problems from me. Changes to the maitre d's expression changes to a congenial one as they approach it as they enter. Just as they enter. Bengali, where crystal shines against aged oak. Is it 2 in the morning? Probably. I don't want to put a time on this. We'll just say it is late. The more general you are, often the more you can get away with. The seat opposite her remains empty. The woman of his dreams, it's just like she's waiting for him. The maitre d' takes Bergen by the arm and guides him toward the music, dear fellow, music. Settles in behind the piano and limbers his fingers. Across the way, the woman absently checks her watch. You may commence at any time, the maitre d' says. Oh, here we go. Bergen warms up the keyboard with slow strokes that, slow strokes? With a simple tap that becomes scales. Musical scales, for those of you who are not the scales transform into a composition as happy as a summer's day. The maitre d' gives Bergen an appreciative nod, taps the piano lightly in rhythmic reminder before he withdraws. And where Bergen is alone, preparing to charm the woman of his dreams. Bergen, to himself as he plays. She looks worried. Fine dress, jewelry, and makeup. Jewelry and makeup. No heels, though. Not a date. Must be family or close friends. Someone important and very late. And very late. Someone important and yet absent. Let's see what she likes. Bergen suddenly shifts the tune, drifts from one piece to another. Different people at different tables glance his way in turn, but the woman of his dreams remains indifferent. He plies the keyboard with more vigor until his virtuoso skill begins to boil. At last she hears the tune and glances over. Stands and glides over the piano. And here we go, he says. What is it you are playing? I have no idea. Do you like it? Woman of his dreams. I suppose it is charming, whatever it is. Thank you, Miss Browning. Your first name wouldn't happen to be Helen, would it? It is Anne, actually. I'm Bergen Hoffman, your virtuoso for the evening. I'd offer you a hand, but both of mine seem to be busy. It's a nice phrase. Tell me, Bergen, do you know any music from the 40s or 50s? Sure, what kind? That period is ripe with transformative elements, from big band to jazz. Sinatra? Bergen shifts his musical composition to a bygone time when men were men, goddammit. Him too. Please don't ask me to sing, though. Anne smiles a little at that. Do you like Sinatra? Anne glances over her shoulder. My father does. And steps away. Bergen is nonplussed. See, it sort of worked, but it didn't work. He watches as she hurries over to Mr. Browning, whose limp arm and turgid step tells of hidden pain, while dark eyes wage an ongoing war against despair. Anne hurries, because we're seeing this through Bergen's eyes. That's fine. We don't need to say Bergen sees that. It's implicit. Father and daughter exchange a gentle hug, then take their seats. Bergen briefly plays one-handed, pops an ear with the other, and turns slightly to listen in. This is important because I want him to have the conversation, but I can't have him be right there. Mr. Browning, have you chosen a wine yet? No, I didn't know if you could. Just one glass. The doc says my liver is on an adjacent acre to a larger swamp. And is that going to be a problem? If that is going to be a problem, I can ask them. It seems all I ever talk about with my only daughter is my cancer. Is my cancer. It may be heart-pounding excitement for me, but it can't possibly be the same for you. No, Anne. I'd much rather hear where you've gone recently and what you've seen. But doctors' offices are all the same from New York to Chicago. How is Travis? We broke up. Sorry to hear that. I thought things were going well. So did I, but he was a drummer, and you know how things are with musicians. Yeah, let's make it a little harder for Bergen. If it's too easy, then there's not much story here after all. We have to have Bergen earn this, despite all of his blessings that he's been given, or curses, as it were, by the three goddesses. We have to have him earn this. And well, earn is a bad way to put it, perhaps, but it has to feel real, and it has to be difficult. A silky hand suddenly slides across his shoulders as a fine cougar of a patroness settles in by his side. Do you any Wagner? Your extemporaneous adaptation of Sinatra is quite astounding, and so I must wonder what you could do with more epic music. Bergen shrugs, tries to focus on Anne's conversation, but the patroness sidles closer, brushes his thigh with her own. There is a reason that fine whiskey requires years. Anne glances over at Bergen, meets his eye. Patroness leads in such ways. Where did you study? Myself, I only play with the best. Anne glances away in disgust. Because that's, Bergen winces. Admires Bergen's recently scratched neck. Such scratches. Should I be jealous or inspired? A hard cock brings them both around to find Whitney, every inch of the prima donna, her elegant gown a perfect match for the piano. That's my seat. Bergen ceases to play, slides away from the patroness, and graciously offers Whitney his seat. The piano is warmed up and in excellent condition, excepting the C sharp on the first octave, but that shouldn't be a problem unless you plow into Beethoven. I don't know if that's true. I feel like I've researched that to make that true, but there we go. Whitney gives a regal sniff as she settles in beside the patroness. Let's thigh brush thigh. A little Wagner this evening, madame? Bergen leaves them to it, heads straight for the table where Anne and Mr. Browning silently watch a server finish pouring their wine. I really don't. A server isn't a person. Unless they're a person, you don't capitalize. It's just a thing. As the server withdraws, I hope I'm not intruding when I say, yes, you are. Mr. Browning catches Anne's eye. No, not at all. I enjoyed your playing, brief as it was. Thank you. I thought you might like a CD of the composition. Free of charge, of course. Mr. Browning notes that's a bad way for an artist to make a living. Mr. Browning takes up his glass of wine, gives it a sniff, and admires the bouquet. Piano is only really a hobby of mine. Anne gives him a look. Your daughter mentioned you like Sinatra, and I thought you could use a pluck for the coming days. Mr. Browning sets the wine back down. Is it that obvious? Bergen, sarcoma are not an idle thing. I never said anything about, are you studying to be a doctor? You could say that. Let me guess, surgeon? It seems a good way to make a living. Then please, take a seat and raise a glass. The world needs well-rested professionals. Bergen does just that. Anne watches the two silently. When do you go in for treatment? Mr. Browning says, late tomorrow, an MRI in advance of proton therapy for chondrosarcoma. My God, it sounds like the opening line from an H.G. Wells novels. As if reading from a book, the MRIs advanced down Piccadilly Square Circus, straight into the arcing fires of the Dragoons' proton cannons. Mr. Browning chuckles. Anne blinks at Bergen. How far advanced is it? Stage 3, I'm afraid. There will have to be significant surgery to stop the spread, but they have begun to believe that it may have infiltrated even farther. Thus, the MRI late tomorrow. But enough about all that. Of course. Where would you like the Sinatra CD sent? Things go better for the doctors when the patient is relaxed. Mr. Browning teases a business card from a pocket with one hand. Anne glances at Bergen in small appreciation. I don't think we need that. Again, we don't want to make it too easy. Mr. Browning says, send it to my office, or if I am not there, to Mount Sinai, the hospital, of course. They share a chuckle as Bergen accepts the card. Of course, and if I don't see you, sir, good luck. To Anne, it was a pleasure, madame. She gives him a little nod. Bergen gracefully departs. The back of the Queensbridge Tavern. A sashimi feast rests beside a sizzle of steak on a tray set between Tony and Bergen. Bergen removes the last of the borrowed tuxedo as Tony dives into the meal. So are you going to zoom her at the hospital? Bergen says, that'd be an epic fail. She's all wound up with what her father is going through. Tony asks, where does that leave you? And Bergen replies, crafting a classic Sinatra composition. Does Miranda still have a job with that studio? Tony suppresses a yawn. Sure, but it has been a long night. And Bergen replies with, it will be a glorious day. Tony nearly chokes on his supper. Because Bergen is, well, he's going to burn the midnight oil. Recording studio, night. A jingle of keys in a lock as a door is pushed in on a little studio packed to the gills with electronics and computers all centered around a keyboard. Bergen enters, waves to someone out of sight. Thanks again, Miranda. I'll be quick. Bergen settles in behind a keyboard and gives a button to press. Nothing. He flicks the power switch by the wall and everything hums merrily to life. His fingers settle upon the keys and fresh music issues forth. That's a little too elegant, and begins to play. What I need to do here is I need to show him using each of his gifts in turn. This is important for the story, and it's important to note how he's changed by using them. Sound effects, Sinatra extemporaneous music plays. And that's the only time I'm really going to do it much specifically with music in terms of the music track, because you let other people deal with that stuff. And of course, all of this can be changed based on the director, the producer, even the studio will have its thoughts on whose music they want to use. Bergen, CD case in hand, suppresses a jaw-cracking yawn as he hustles toward the hospital. Bergen saunters through the hospital hallways, weaves around patients and nurses with a purpose. Bergen raps lightly on the door. On a door. His eyes flutter and he has to shake himself back fully awake. Come in, Mr. Browning, says. Bergen pushes his way inside. Inside, Mr. Browning turns hesitantly from a view of the seemingly endless city, his hospital gown in a crumpled mess about him, and is piled in a chair at the foot of the bed, fast asleep. Bergen spares her a little glance that Browning notices. A bit relieved. Oh, it's you. I thought... Not important. Bergen holds up the CD. As requested, Sinatra X-Temp. Sorry it took so long, but there were some extras I wanted to add. Bergen motions towards the bedside table. Thank you. But what? Bergen asks. They did the MRI already. The cancer has advanced significantly. In a few hours, I'm going to have my arm and most of my shoulder amputated. But at least I get to listen to Sinatra while the bone saw burns. Bergen is taken aback. Amputation when combined with proton therapy, even in stage 4 trypanosarcoma, can yield a better than even chance of long-term survival. I'm past worrying about myself. Anne, though, gently strokes his daughter's hair. You remember Anne, don't you? He does remember. I could never forget her. Mr. Browning gives a rare smile. I thought I knew that look, that buck caught in headlights gaze from back when I was 18. When I first saw her, I just couldn't turn away. I couldn't turn away. I couldn't turn away. Which is true. I couldn't. Mr. Browning steps over. Despite the difference in height and health, he managed to be the equal of Bergen. Now, normally that kind of blind infatuation will get me shouting at you to leave my daughter alone. Like I said, I remember being 18. Lucky for you, I caught today's paper. Mr. Browning flops a daily paper onto the bed. Mysterious pair rescues mother, daughter, and cat from burning building. Fire calls for the award of bronze medallion for heroism. A grainy yet unmistakable picture of Bergen and Tony performing CPR on the woman, the burning building behind them, and the daughter between, lies just below the headline. Bergen idly scratches where the cat clawed him. Oh, that. Mr. Browning says, you might be good enough for her. Mr. Grunt sits down on the bench, waves away, and waves. Bergen settles opposite him. When I met my wife, it was like the sun came out just for me. And though she's been living under a cloud since I got diagnosed, for 6 months she's been with me every step. He chuckles grimly. I had to have my doctor offer a false prognosis after the last round of chemo so that Anne would take some time off for herself. I'd like to think she enjoyed those weeks, not worrying over every little thing, but then she started nosing about, and here we are again. Was there a lot of yelling? I wish. She just went quiet, moved back into the house as if a full-time nursing staff couldn't possibly be enough for me. I've become her life, and I can't stand that. This is not the way things are supposed to be. Anne murmurs in her sleep, rousing toward waking. What can I do? Wait. Things will fall one way or another soon enough. When they do, make sure she remembers how to live her life again. How to live her life again. The soft squeak of a wheelchair sounds out as a nurse pushes it through the door. Sir, it's time. Mr. Browning nods to the nurse and then looks to Beth. Then looks to Bergen. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to see a man about a saw. The two men shake hands. Bergen heads. What do we want to do here? What do we want to do here? The two men shake hands. That's for the wheelchair. Casts a last glance at with haunted resolution, she rises up, pushes her back, and steps to her father's side. All right, so she's fully concentrated on her father's troubles, and that's going to get in the way of things. Back at interior bachelor apartment day, Tony lies sprawled across a cinder block propped table beside a half bowl of cereal, drools in happy slumber amid the tiny bachelor pad replete with 2 beds, a beer fridge, and not much else. A door slams shut, brings him up with a snort, finds Berg, and he finds. How'd it go? Not well. He's in surgery and she might as well be. But she didn't shoot you down. She didn't say a word. Tony considers his bowl of cereal and gives it a nudge to see if it has congealed. He takes a spoon, chews hesitantly. So, I think I need to cure cancer, Bergen says. Tony spits the cereal right back out. Not all cancer, just his. Oh, well then, easy, right? Bergen, not really listening. I need to know everything there is about chronic sarcoma and proton therapy, probably particle physics too. I was just about to suggest that. Bergen, I'm serious. Tony, do you need to borrow my phone for the internets? And Bergen says, no, I'm going to need medical journals and other publications too, and I may need to quit my job. Really? I mean, I've done worse for a pretty girl, the day job part anyway. But do you have enough cash for all that? No, but there are some upcoming fluctuations in the stock market I could exploit. That'd take money. And if you need money now to make money, if you need the cash now, there's only one place to go. That is if that Artemis gift thing really works. And then we begin at okay. Exterior, casino. Day, casino. As big and bright, is filled with hundreds of gamblers. Oh, nope. We can't go there yet. We begin the montage. Begin a gambling montage. Tony presents Bergen with a set of dice. They both kneel on the floor of their kitchen. Bergen gives the dice a toss against the wall and onto the floor. A total of 4. Another roll 6. He nods, tosses them again. There's causing difficulty that swiftly evaporates as favorable numbers come up time and again. Cut to Bright Jersey Casino, where Bergen tosses the dice down the length of a craps table that bears a meager pile of chips. The craps come up 6. He rolls again. 6 again. Winner. The chips accumulate before him as more dice tumble. 7s and other numbers all turn into winners. Chips begin to accumulate on the green. The chips grow. More dice tumble. The set of dice are weighted and examined before a suspicious pit boss. The man plays. A new set of dice is pressed into Bergen's hand. The stack of chips becomes a miniature castle. Another set of dice. Bergen tosses the bones above a kingdom of wealth. Tony cashes them out, big time. Bergen's ear... dime. There are forms to fill out. The IRS takes their due. To a phone while a credit card flips idly in his hand. A forklift carries a load of very heavy text past the pair to a waiting truck. I think we go back to the scene there. The gambling part is done. Exterior. Back of a college bookstore. Carries a load of very heavy text past Bergen to a waiting truck. Interior. Sits piles of medical texts arrayed before him as he cross-reads. Scribble on it on a Byzantine schematic. A jingle of keys at the door as Tony enters, a bag of Gurgos carry out in hand. You know, it's strange going into work every day, knowing I've got plenty in the bag. No, not strange, the other thing. Fun. Bergen looks up blankly from the schematic. In case you're interested, I've got a grinder and half a just went bad pizza. Will that appease your growling deities? Bergen stares back down at his work. I said I've got it. See, you know, he's done a lot of hard work, and we're going to move on. So he's using Athena here, and it obviously, I hope it shows with the way he, we should use the, I've got it. Eureka! It's a Eureka moment. And with that, we're going to move on to the second part of things. Third part of things, the next turning anyway. Bergen's worked hard to get where he is, and now he's using all those gifts that he said he wouldn't use, and maybe the audience notices, and maybe they don't. All right, there we go. But that's going to be the end of the episode. We're going to move on to the other part of this, where he tries to put things into play, finds out the real world is a little more unforgiving than that, but it won't matter because the story is almost halfway done, and we're moving quite a pace. And I think this is a good pace. Something's happening. There's room for breathers and what have you. It's hopefully still fun and lively, and we'll get back to this for next time. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Alan Revises. Hope you have a good day. Take care.